Welcome to part two of this podcast with the outstanding Shannon Rudd and the incomparable Allie Lichtenberg. They joined me last week for part one. So if you have not listened to part one, you best go and listen to it. The link is right here under there in the show notes or on YouTube description, video description. This particular episode, we'll dive right into the conversation, and it's going to be focused on the AdTech Economic Forum. Takeaways. I did not have the blessing, pleasure, and honor to go in person, but I've heard a lot of feedback. But I want to welcome Allie and Shannon again. Welcome to the podcast, part two.
Oh, well, thank you for having us back again.
So for this one, tell me maybe like, first of all, what was the AdTech Economic Forum? Who organized it? Was it worth it? I'm sure it was, but was it worth it? So like, Allie, tell me about your just answer the question. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so AdTech Economic Forum. This definitely was not on my bingo card originally. I like this. I didn't know about this conference until right before it happened. Like marketecture was on my brain for months.
Everywhere. Yeah.
We were in the community. We knew about it. I felt like I had a really good idea going into it, what it was going to be about, who I was going to see. AdTech Economic Forum, just like a few days before all the excitement of conferences that week, I started hearing rumblings about it. Maybe I'm like not in the know. So I was like, oh, another conference. And I looked at the price tag and I was like, oh, another conference. So, but what I did start seeing circulate right before the conference was a sign up where you could potentially win free tickets to.
Oh, nice.
They were offering them to up and coming ad tech professionals.
Oh, I love when they do that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I greatly appreciated that. I think that that's a huge, again, like effort and gesture to get
Yes.
people, at least in the audience. I signed up. I told them a little bit of my story, and I won a free ticket. So that's why I was able to go.
That's so dope.
So I love that. And I think more conferences should do something like that. So I believe it was organized primarily by Rob Beeler, Tom Triscari. I think they did a great job. I felt a little bit more out of my element there, not because of anything about the conference necessarily, but because it's incorporating that finance M&A aspect. And those are topics I try not to think about too much in my day-to-day life. Honestly, they don't interest me. It's like a lot of things I don't want to think about. But I figured, let me go check it out, take in what I could. And it was a really great learning experience.
Nice. What about you, Shannon? What do you have to?
Yeah, similar. It wasn't on my radar. But I was super curious. I actually think Allie, kudos to her. She's always great about sharing the wealth and letting, the women's community know when there's new opportunities. I also applied, I didn't get it, but I will give a shout out to both Tom and Rob that, were able to help me out and get it down to a price point that was, approachable for me. Which, I don't think a lot of conferences honestly would do that for somebody. So, kudos to them, because that's what it sometimes takes. We are underpaid as women. We can't afford, the $1,700, conference, especially as independent consultants. It's different when, your company's paying. But, and yeah, it was at the Time Center, in New York City. It was definitely, I walked in, it was just a day or two after the Marketecture event, and it did have a different vibe, but feel to it. I didn't, as Allie mentioned, I didn't feel quite as like, oh, I'm coming to my people, in that, there were a lot of, corporate finance people, VC investors. It was a different crowd. As the day went on, I did, meet, ran into people I knew, but it had an overall, it didn't feel, as friendly. I could, maybe further our conversation point to some specific, reasons, but from a content perspective, however, I'm the nerd who actually like these are the things. I've been with startups. I've been with one that actually got acquired. I'm always the one who's like, how does that work? Like how do they make the investments? How do they decide to go public? How do they, How are these stocks valued? The top 16 ad tech stocks. This is the stuff that like my, grad school brain is like, I want to know more. Who are these power players? Because it is a very different set of people that aren't traditionally on the stages that, the Beeler conferences, I attended a lot of the media post conferences, being on the publisher side for many years. It's a different crowd on stage. And to me, it was actually refreshing to hear new voices and different takes and angles at the industry.
That's very interesting. But you guys, I don't know if you've heard Tom Triscari speak before. Have you? Either of you? Have you
I
heard
just
him speak?
recently met him.
So Tom is an economics person. He
Mhm.
has a newsletter that only does that. And based on, and I did not attend the conference, but based on your feedback, that's exactly what he covers in his newsletter. And so it's a very targeted content,
Yeah.
and it is very specific, and it's all based on financials. And I try, and I know I'm smart. Damn, I know I'm
Oh, you're
smart.
smart, girl.
But Tom, if you hear this, sometime I be reading your new, and I'm like, what? What?
I gotta sign up for it. I don't know. Yeah.
Now, my husband, who is in stock investment and he's the finance person for our consultancy, he's operation finance and investors relations. And he speaks that language to me sometime. And I'm like, boo, what?
Yeah.
No, don't just tell me got paid. We got received some funding. Don't tell me all these details. I'm not interested. It's not me. And vice versa. When I go into my details too, he's like, sis, was the client happy? Cool. Let's move on. And he's a pretty damn smart person, let me tell you. So that's what Tom Triscari does. He talks economics, and I had the pleasure of meeting him in at Beeler Tech, actually, in Navigator. And so, what is one? Maybe take a minute or so to tell me if there's a session that you learned from and you're like, okay, I'll be able to use this in my day to day, or like a session, because again, I think the attendee is different than a architecture. Architecture was very tech focused in terms of like growth, development, brand safety, AI. Like it was those three theme. Do you think outside of the economic stuff, there was a clear theme across, and which session stood out the most? Ali, I mean, Shannon, give us started.
Which I think
Get it started.
there was an overall theme of it was a little more like high level talk than brass
Okay.
tacks in a way, in that, looking at the industry from a bigger picture, not, your optimizing campaign level, but from all the angles of the
Mm,
investing side. And how a lot of it comes down to consumer behavior is changing. People are moving towards AI. The traditional publisher that was, the king or queen of content,
mhm.
um, is no longer. User
Wow.
behavior is changing. And at the end of the day, it was like whoever can figure out how to monetize IA is quote unquote, going to be the winner.
Mhm,
Which, like, for me, I came to New York to be in publishing. I started my career there, spent a good
mm.
deal of time before moving into
Yeah.
ad tech. It
Mhm.
was a little scary,
Mm.
like, you know,
Yeah, that's
um,
real talk.
but
Mhm,
interesting at the same time.
mhm.
Um, like how are people consuming information, and it opened my brain to a new level of thinking about the market chapter grid. We got the identity, we got the resolution. There's a lot happening there, but like it kind of helped me tie together the bigger picture of how the future of the industry may look. So
Wow.
I actually really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty interesting. What about you, Ali?
Yes, so I really enjoyed it, and the points I'm going to bring up have nothing to do with mergers and acquisitions and
Acquisition.
economics. So your readers are going to learn, or listeners are going to learn nothing about that from me. I found all the little bits
Get
and
it.
pieces of
Yeah.
AdTech,
Yeah.
which is what I went there for. So some of the standouts for me, Andrew Casale from Index Exchange had a
Yeah.
session, which again, like the nitty gritties of SSP. I'm a DSP SSP
Yeah.
girl, so I really appreciated his session.
Mhm,
I even, the thing that he said that is, I'm still thinking about today. I'm still thinking about all these things.
mhm,
I'm still thinking about this one statement he made where we're going to be in a world where there's more DSPs and fewer SSPs. And I think,
Ooh.
I feel like you and I could debate that for like an hour in a
At
different
least.
podcast. But I thought it was such a provocative thing to say. And it's definitely something I think about in my day to day. And
Wow.
so in his session, I even raised my hand to ask a question. And
Mhm.
so I do want to shout out Rob Beeler, who, when I raised my hand, came over, threw me the mic, and let me ask that question. And then I actually had the pleasure of meeting Rob during the happy hour. And I had a chance to
Fantastic.
thank him for taking my question. And he let me
Yeah.
know he was specifically looking in the audience for different faces and voices.
Yeah.
I've been speaking up earlier in the day. So I really appreciated that. And that was a great aspect for me of the conference. And then again, just a few more like ad tech things that I was able to take away. It was interesting because we saw Jonathan Roberts again. I had seen him at Marketecture Live a few days before. So there was a lot of great like repeat reinforcement. But in a different take. And then again, I found the identity session. So Matthew Roche of ID5 and Todd Parsons of Criteo. Selfishly, as we know from part one, I'm preparing my presentation on measurement, which identity is a big piece of. So I was very much listening in on their presentation.
Nice. And just so you know, if you're listening to both of the podcasts, we'll be able to have Allie's link. So you do sign up and you'll get a discount based using her link. You do have a speaker. Okay. So a speaker referral link. We'll have a speaker referral link for Allie's session at the Programmatic IO in Vegas in May. I will not be attending this year because it happens to be right in the middle of a few family events. So we have a few families, like we have wedding, we have birthdays, we have a bunch of stuff in May. Yep. And so unfortunately I won't be there, but I am rooting for you and I know you'll be amazing at it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here's like the last questions, right? It seems that we all, as an industry, get really excited about the shiny new objects.
Oh, yes.
Or the shiny new acronyms. And that's no shade to a Shiv because he know I love him. I love his team. But is there a shiny new thing that you heard or noticed at AdTech Economic Forum that you did not notice at Marketecture? And what was it?
Good one. Question.
Well, I mean, there was literally a light up bowl on the table. Like, you don't.
It was a poll?
Yeah, if we're gonna talk about
a bowl. There's literally a bowl, like the table decor. If you go back and look at some of the screenshots of the event, there was it was decor. Like it was very like
it was like an award for some of them, but it had a very, let's just say, masculine presence.
Well, it was very financially.
Or maybe it's a take on Wall Street. Now I get it. Sorry, a little slow terminology there.
So if you had that screenshot, please share. I'll add it.
It shine.
Yeah,
it's shiny. Okay, physically shiny. Now let's talk about industry-wide shiny. What stood out?
Shiny.
You know, a lot of it was like, we need to fix open web. I mean, that discussion's been going on for a long time. I tuned in, to the DDM Meredith had some presenters there. They actually had a big presence at both Marketecture and the Economic Forum. I think, they are probably one of, the largest, if not publisher right now in the industry. They acquired a lot of Bonnier titles. I think some Time Inc. ones as well over the years. And, they're really relying heavily on Google's privacy sandbox, which, if I was sitting on the Decipher team, that's their new data team to fix their, the overall monetization challenge for publishers.
Yeah.
For me, that strategy is a little risky. Hearing about all the identity stuff, I'd love to hear Allie's thoughts on that, because that was what was going through my head listening. And also, Meredith had a lot of men on stage, so I don't know what they did with all their women, but
Shannon, I love you. I was like, where are the women in your company?
Well, I mean, I was fortunate. I come up in time of publishing where I had, really strong female mentors. I think that's what's unique, maybe on the agency side and publishing side versus the tech side. I faced a lot more challenges when I got in, and at that tech side, not having that
Real.
more senior, female support to help rise my career. Because I was fortunate, I did get to rise very quickly. Within publishers, I unfortunately, I did eventually rise to VP level within ad tech, but it took a lot longer. And I actually had to take a step back before I could move. Careers aren't linear. I tell everybody careers are roller coasters. There is no direct path in this industry. But
That's true.
yeah, I'd be curious, Allie, I know your identities, your strong topic. You're so knowledgeable. Like, do you think that's a good strategy for a big publisher?
Yeah, talk to us.
To me, it seems real risky to be playing in a.
I mean, I guess. Hold on. I don't know if I have a strong opinion on this.
Oh,
Okay. That's also okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I think right now a lot of the way it's working is like you have to pick one to sort of base your measurement in. And so I think hard choices are having to get made. But there certainly are a lot of other alternatives out there, and there are more alternatives coming. So I think, ideally it'll evolve in a world where we don't want identity to become a walled garden, which it already is in a lot of aspects. So yeah, I don't know if it's a strong POV on picking Sandbox in particular.
Yeah, it was like you said, you got to pick a strategy. I've been in those shoes where, publishers are under tremendous pressure. I mean, they were 10 years ago. I only can imagine the pressure they're under now. But I think there may be more innovative solutions coming, back to Melinda, we were talking about the distillery, how to get to that idealist monetization. I think audiences, but in the day, that's a monetization pool, right? And a revenue stream.
I mean, is there a different one that you would pick?
Put me back in the hot seat.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I don't think I would pick one that's behind Google's walled garden. Google, I mean, let's face it, they're under a lot of DOJ scrutiny right now with all the antitrust case. I don't think I'd put my basket, so to speak, or my eggs in Google's basket right now. I think there's going to be a lot. I mean, that's another one I've been following closely. It's from an era when I was questioning, Google's some of their practices, and they don't give answers. They still don't. They're not known for their customer service. It's hard to get to speak to a human if you're a vendor of theirs. But we were a large vendor. I mean, working at a big publisher, a lot of dollars are going through ad servers, and you're paying whatever 5 cents or whatever on every impression served. So that ends up being a big check every month. I'd be curious to learn more, honestly, what other, what's Hearst doing, what's, some of the other big pure plays doing in the space.
Sure. Yeah. And I think my shiny related point to that is it relates to measurement. But I think the framing in this one particular session on the economics of identity, the statement, money doesn't flow to the non-measurable. Yes. And I think that is super important. And, we're running around saying, CTV's upper funnel, audio you can't measure, I'm not going to spend my money there. These are all really great premium, attention getting placements that aren't getting the money spent on them purely because we're not great at measuring them yet. And so we're looking at reporting and we're saying, oh, this doesn't convert. No, we're not great at measuring it. And I think we need to do a better job of getting these really quality media placements more measurable so that we can start funneling more money there.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I would also say on the topic of measurement is that if you're not good at measuring, you need to ask somebody, hire somebody, or hire or partner with a vendor that is able to measure for you. There are a lot of great partners out there that can do that measurement. And sometimes you just got to delegate to them.
Yeah.
And so I want to
give them do what they're best at.
Exactly. I want to give a small shout out to Filament, which is a measurement slash brand safety for YouTube placement and YouTube content. They're not a sponsor of this podcast yet. But I have the pleasure of meeting them in person in New York, not at the conferences. That's nothing to do with conferences. But what you just said about measurement really spoke to me, and it really spoke to what they're doing. And sometimes you just have to partner with a filament to do that work and make sure that and it goes back, and I'm tying it back to the whole open web. How can we make it better? Yes, it's sucks that we still have to have partners, brand safety partners added to the mix to make sure that the open web is what it's supposed to be. Yeah, it kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie. But at the end of the day, that's the best option we have now, unless you want to handpick every single open web inventory. And even if you do, there are partners that are already doing it. Like, go with them, right? And so be intentional, do your research, and like continue testing. And to wrap it out to the whole identity and Google Privacy Sandbox, at the end of the day, I think from a buyer's perspective, we just don't got the time to do our job to start with, which is
Yep.
crazy, right?
Oh
So
no,
now
yeah,
you're asking us to test Privacy Sandbox,
Yep.
UID 2.0, Identity Graph. You can only work with RAMP ID in this one, but the other one and the other one. It's like exhausting. Like everybody, all of them has to come to a cookout. I keep talking about this one cookout. If you're a listener of
Yeah.
the podcast, you know what I mean. But like I want all of them to go to a cookout, talk about it, drink together, eat together, come up with like one solution for us
no,
that
thank you.
everybody can work in and then go. But that's if it's in a perfect world. And I know we don't live in a perfect world. So, in order to wrap it up, I would love for you both to close us with a point of wisdom. It sounds like both from Architecture Live and AdTech Economic Forum were a success to some extent. If I had to recap, the content was there. I think it was challenging enough. It was good enough. Like it was really great. In terms of the speaker lineup, I didn't even ask you about AdTech Economic Forum, but I can already tell that diversity from the speaker line. I mean, you can look at it on the website. Maybe we need to do some work there. Okay, if you hear me
I,
there, Tom
I
and
will
Rob,
say,
but
I was happy to see some very senior level. They had both from Stack Adapt and
mhm,
oh gosh, other companies not coming to mind, but two high level female CFOs on stage. To me,
that's
that's
good.
like heck yeah, that's inspirational to me.
That's very good. Yeah, 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 yeah. And
A
so I'm
C
not.
level woman at some top publicly traded ad tech companies. That's a
Yeah,
huge role for somebody. You
yeah.
know, um, is it perfect? No, but I actually think there was more female speakers on stage at the AdTech Economic Forum, not in attendance. Attendance, honestly, I was at a lunch table and it felt like I was walking to a sea full of men, y'all. I mean, I felt uncomfortable. I should feel comfortable at these things. I've sat in the seats of some of these people. I mean, I'm not C-level, but I have been, GM VP level in my career. And there was only one other woman at my entire, 40-person lunch table. I mean,
Wow.
all about feeling out of place. And I have to, I have to, I am a Caucasian woman, so like I can only imagine how more uncomfortable that could feel someone, you know, of a,
Yeah,
person of color or from a different background, ethnicity, race, religion,
like me.
you
Yeah,
know, um,
yeah.
you know, it was the first time I actually felt more uncomfortable interacting with people at that
Oh
conference
wow,
than I
really?
did at Marketecture. Thankfully Allie was there, so we managed to have fun too. But um,
I
yeah, so
think.
it's
Mhm.
interesting.
I think it's important to voice it, and I know that that team is going to receive it. I want to just preface that no one should feel like that going anywhere in our space at this time. It's 2025. Damn it.
Yeah,
However, it's a valid point. It's a sensitive subject, but it shouldn't. We should all be comfortable receiving these type of criticism if we're gonna receive criticism for us as women. And again, that could be a different happy hour conversation. But I do want to preface that and recognize that. So if you feel like that, Again, find your tribe, but also voice it and stand up, because the worst thing to do is for us not to voice it and to continue feeling and living within this. But the best thing I can leave you with is that if you have a voice, whether you are in leadership or you're in decision making of this type of event, continue making intentional decision and inviting this type of audience, because we are craving for it. We're
Yeah.
craving for this audience. We want to keep learning. Conferences are going to be here to stay, and I support them. I support bringing people together to learn for a common good and to really address challenges that we can address, at least out loud. And so I invite you, if you're part of that team or any other team, to continue voicing it. And once you open that door, you leave it open for other people.
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
mm-hmm.
you leave it open, and it shouldn't be the same Black people on stage every time. Okay, let me just say that. So with that said, here, since Shannon, you just spoke, Allie, maybe leave us with a word of wisdom. What is something you wish you knew then that you now know? Like, leave us with a quick word of wisdom. 30 seconds.
Quit your job, start your own company.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So,
I'm
I
not editing that one out. I'm keeping it.
I never wanted to be a founder or a CEO. I always wanted to rise through the ranks of a company and work for someone else's vision, but just like do a great job. And I I kept fighting, and I hit my glass ceiling around that senior director level. And I was sort of, I was so lost about what to do next. And but this goes into like, we're in the year 2025. It's never been a better time to quit your job and start your own company. We have community in ways that we've never had before, virtually and in real life. We have technologies that allow each of us to specialize in our skill and do the support things very easily. And then earn the money that we deserve for the skills that we have. So, quit your job, start your own company, go to conferences in that order.
How about you, Shannon?
I'm gonna take a little different. I love what Allie said. I'm all for women-owned businesses. I definitely love supporting them. I think what a lot of people see, you look up someone's LinkedIn profile, you see, maybe their career, their education, what have you. What I think is not spoken a lot, especially as a woman leader, is how much grit and tenacity it takes. I happen to be a national champion lacrosse goalie. You take a lot of hits to the
Do take
body
a lot of
on
hit.
that.
Okay.
Okay, the bruises aren't good. I'm also an endurance cyclist. Okay, not only an endurance cyclist, I ride gravel. Okay, it's like if you want to talk about infiltrating male dominated spaces, cycling is a very white male dominated space as well. Okay. And I help build community for women in that space.
Go ahead, Shannon. You go
Getting more
ahead,
women
girl.
on bikes in New York City. If you're a cyclist, hit me up afterwards. We'll get you involved there. But,
Yeah.
that it shouldn't take so much, emotional, physical,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I face burnout in my career. It's not something that's like
Oh, hey, yeah, I have
real
to.
popular to talk about. But to get to the levels that we want women to see, we need more of these support groups. We need the support of the greater community. We need, good people giving opportunities, to diverse voices, to diverse perspectives. And if I had a group like the Women in Programmatic Network or the Advanced Women, which these two industry groups have literally both, popped up in the past, I don't know, year and a half. At least I've been involved that long with them. Maybe they've been around a little longer, but at least the U.S. presence of these groups. If I had a group like that of women supporting, cheering me on, a confidential person to go to and have a private, discussion if I'm facing, a challenge or questioning how maybe I should approach something throughout my career,
Fact.
maybe I could have risen, further and it without it being so emotionally, draining and quite frankly,
Yeah.
physically draining as well.
Yeah.
And the more I get to know women, in these groups, we've all faced some sort of insurmountable hurdle
Yeah.
in different, they're all a little different.
Yeah.
And we finally have a safe space to talk about
Mhm.
that. And um, I don't, I'm sure men in the industry have faced challenges too.
Of
I
course,
hope they have
everybody.
support networks. Everybody, no matter gender, needs a support network in life. But, lean in on those support networks. There are good people out there. Um, and that's how I think we're going to get there faster as, women into leadership roles, into, on stages at conferences, in senior level positions, or
I
starting your own
love that.
business. I mean, cheers to
I
both of
love
you.
that.
I mean, you guys gals, not guys, give me inspiration. Is it time to just, plant my own stake in the industry as well?
That is so lovely.
Yeah.
I really appreciate both of you for coming on. I think it's super refreshing to have you part of my network, of my line of friends, of whoever. I'm super grateful. And I will end this for the listener or whoever is watching is that we encourage you to step out. If it's not at a big conference like Architecture Live or AdTech Economic Forum, I encourage you to get out and get to networking. That's if your health
Mhm.
is allows you to, if your wellness allows you to. If not, there are many virtual things out here in these streets that you can join. Let's start there. I will also say these fantastic women both said, find your tribe. I strongly recommend the Women Programmatic Network. It actually goes way back from 2020, I think, or 2019 when I first started. That's when I joined as well. And they've been fantastic and it's grown. Advanced Women is fairly in the last year, it's fairly new. However, they've been so fantastic. So find your tribe. It's free. Join, hang out, peek in and out. And when you open that door for yourself, leave it open for others. But make sure
Yes.
you turn on that light. Make sure that you pull that chair at that seat and you uplift somebody and you bring them on and you voice it out. And sometimes it starts with just saying it, post about it, talk to somebody, give somebody a call and be like, yo, listen, really. And if you're a man, we welcome you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being the allies that more
Yes.
women need, like you're not invisible. You're here and we appreciate you and we want to clap for you as well as we want to clap to all our sisters out there. But if you have to attend one of those conference, I think I love what both of you share is that you came prepared to some extent. You knew which sessions you wanted to go to. What I would add on is maybe connect with some of the speakers in advance before somebody from their company. Take meetings in advance. That's my little hack tips to you. If you have to attend those conferences, be prepared, learn, attend some of those sessions. But I think the bigger magic happens during those networking events. So stay all the way till the end. You won't regret it. But also take those meetings in advance. Can we take 10 minutes to talk in person? You never know. And be clear. This is who I am. This is who I is. This is what I do. This is what I need. How can I help you? Or this is how I can help you. How can you, what else can you need? And connect people, keep connecting people. And so it's super lovely. Shout out to both of those planners,
Yeah.
um, events company, whatever. I feel like it takes a lot. I just did a workshop yesterday and it took a lot and that was virtual. Okay. So I can't imagine doing it in person. But if you stay tuned and you stick around with the Programmatic Digest podcast, you will have your first event sometime this year. I don't know when. It's on my heart to say it, so I'm gonna say it. And if it's meant to be, it will happen. I'm a strong believer. So again, Shannon, thank you for
Oh,
stopping by.
oh,
Ali,
this has
thank
been
you.
so fun. I appreciate you having us again and, giving us an opportunity to share our voices because, you know, again, that's how we all rise together and uplift each
Yeah,
other,
that's a fact.
discussing the
That's
hard
a fact.
things, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Ellen. It's been a real pleasure.
And Ali will be at the Programmatic IO conferences and the link
I
to
will.
join
And there
is
will be coupon codes, and I
yeah.
hope it helps a lot of people attend.
Yes. And if any one of my listeners or my YouTube viewers want to reach out to you, can they reach out to you via LinkedIn, or how can they do
Oh,
so?
they can. So I live on LinkedIn. I'm pretty loud over there. So my DMs are always open. My comments are always open. So please do connect with me there. Allie
Okay.
Lichtenberg.
Sweet.
Yeah, likewise, I'm on LinkedIn as well, and always happy to have a coffee chat, or if or in person if you're in New York City. So, yeah,
Excellent.
please feel
Well, again,
welcome to reach out.
excellent. I will have both of their information in the show notes. And if you're following me on any of my social, you'll get that information as well. Thank you so much. And if you heard us all the way through here, make sure you follow, you share, you whatever, you subscribe, you download, whatever it is these days on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. I greatly appreciate you. See you on the flip side.